How was the experience when Rob came to you and said, "Hey, we have the screenplay," and which was shown as a stage production, which you really showed a positive sign for? It was a good adaptation.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the theatrical adaptation, but again, I mean, the screen and the stage are different, and you have to accept that it was you can't just kind of basically film a stage play, and you've got to try and find a sort of a way through it all, and any process of adaptation, you've got to decide exactly what you're going to do, which story from the book you're going to tell, because you can tell a multitude of stories from any novel or story that you serialise. There's all different kinds of stories in there, so you have to be able to basically, you've got to be able to sum up in one sentence, it's basically, Ecstasy is about a guy who's messed up on drugs, who's got in too deeply, and he falls in love, and it's that's the redemptive thing for him, and he's got to work out his feelings about that. And it's like Trainspotting's about a guy trying to get off heroin, basically. But you couldn't say that. You could say that about the book, but you can say that about the movie. You couldn't say that about the book. So you've got to be very definite and concise and tell just the one story. And film, and everything's got to be kind of skewed to that. And sometimes you're finding that right until the last minute through the editing process, So yeah, I mean, but Rob had a kind of a very coherent vision for it. He knew it had to be a love story. He knew, obviously, with his background, it was always going to have a very strong music bias, because it's basically a club movie. It's a pub and music movie,
right.
So it's going to operate in that environment. But it's a love story within that environment, within a kind of drug music kind of club milieu. So yeah, so that was kind of what excited me about it, really. That he knew what he wanted to say with it.
Oh, fantastic. And something I like about your stories, especially Trainspotting, that's where it all started for me personally. You have this love affair with characters. Each character has its own little story, his own little sort of characteristic that you can't quite put the finger on, but it's there. And you read these characters in so much detail, and it shows from all your books, especially Stag Boys, the recent one, and why do you have this love affair with characters? And it's beautiful on paper, and I wanted to know more about this.
I think you kind of you want to. I mean, I kind of have problems with a lot of novels, because to me, a lot of them are kind of plot driven. The characters don't really seem to be real. It's always the same kind of. It's okay. To me, a lot of books tend to be an authorial kind of fantasy. It's about the lead character is just maybe a bit better looking, a bit of a better fighter, a bit of a better lover than the guy who's writing the book.
Right.
So, and it's like this kind of wish fulfillment thing. And I was never interested in doing that. I wanted to kind of get an idea of some of the characters that I've known and met in life, and kind of in some ways probably been. And to find, to get a kind of rounded picture of their humanity on the page, the kind of show them in all their kind of ludicrousy and vanities and foibles, as well as their kind of sort of good side, and as well as their sort of the kind of way that they kind of try or strive to look after each other. So it was like trying to kind of, to me, it's to try and get proper real characters into fiction, which you don't see a lot of in fiction.
No, you don't. And he has taken a very different approach to characters, of course, Rob. And personally speaking, if I were to ever try and adapt one of his books, I'd probably be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and go home. So it's quite an interesting adventure that you went on to bring his characters onto the screen. And I wanted to know what challenges you faced. And I know there are like a million, probably, but like for you, what was personally the most difficult thing?
In the adaptation of the screenplay, or bringing it to screen, or?
Like basically bringing it into screen, but specifically about the characters, about finding the right fit in terms of actors, or it may even be just trying to showcase their characteristics on screen.
Well, I think I give the actors a lot of leeway as far as what their characteristics go. Like Billy Boyd, for instance, had a character who is kind of going further and further insane by doing copious amounts of drugs. So he kept kind of rubbing his head and moving his hands around his head and stuff like that. He had these just weird characteristics. But when he came to set, he was very well prepared. You know, he knew his character, he knew his motivation, he knew what he was doing, he knew... And every shot we did with him was exactly the same. So when we were putting it together and we were moving the cameras from here over here, on every word, he would do the exact same action. So when we were editing his scenes together, it was like cutting butter, you know, it's just no problem. But it's more difficult, I think, with other actors, like Adam is very emotional when he acts, and he's always, you know, using his emotions as his motivation. So he's not so aware of what he's doing with his hands or paying attention to continuity. So when you're editing his stuff together, it's much more difficult, and we have to be very focused on, you know, trying to keep continuity going between one shot and the next. I mean, characteristics of the characters that are there in the novel changed a bit in the adaptation. Right. But like Solo's character in the book was in a wheelchair, which is not very threatening gangster. Confined to a wheeler. So.
No, absolutely, and your film has a lot of character, and I see a lot of films being made of adaptations of books or screenplays that have reference to book and so forth, but you have done quite an amazing job bringing his story onto the screen, which is quite a refreshing thing to see. In terms of stories, in terms of showcasing the story, was there anything that you had to add from your own personal perspective? Like, of course, like taking a story and putting it on screen is one thing, but then
I think the relationship with his father, I mean, my father had a strange relationship with his father, and my dad kind of encouraged me to follow my love of the arts, where two of my brothers are sort of business people, and but still there's sort of this difficulty there in communicating. And when I was visiting Scotland, doing research and hanging out with my writer who co-wrote the script, I noticed a similar thing, but it's only even more accentuated, that this sort of communication between males is very hard-edged. And
yes.
How do you express your emotions with your male friends and stuff? It'll be like two best friends at a pub, and they'd be drinking beer and fight over a girl and smash beer bottles on their heads, and the next day, you know, they go to the hospital to get stitches, and the next day they'll be like buddies at the pub. They do the same thing, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. I mean, communication between men is very, very strange, and communication between men and women is very, very strange in Scotland, or at least it was traditionally. And ecstasy was one of the things that changed it. Ecstasy was, the drug ecstasy was an incredible thing, because it was almost like, when I was growing up in the kind of pre-rave times, it was like a kind of, it was like a sort of sexual apartheid almost between sort of men and women. You know, they would drink in different bars, they would drink in a different corner of the bar, and all that. And they'd go to the disco, and the women would just dance all night on the floor. The guys would sit at the bar, and then they come in for the last dance in the pool and go home. You know, it was a bizarre kind of ritual. You know, and it was such an unromantic kind of, you know, sort of time. And there was no real. I don't think men and women really understood each other in Scotland until ecstasy. You know, and it just changed everything. You know, it's like, you know. They just stand and talk to each other, sit there and talk, and realise, God, you're not so fucking weird after all. You actually have got a personality, and you have things to say. It's absolutely phenomenal, like, you know. You've got a nice top as well.
Wow. Honestly, these are the kind of stories that I wait for when I do an interview. I'm like, because I know.
Well, we had the 60s in Scotland and the 90s, basically.
The big jump.
I love generation.
Now, of course, you put a lot of detail into your writing, Irvin, and I have read like 3 or 4 of your books, 3 from the last count. So I wanted to know, how do you go about writing your books? Because I picture from your stories, you walk into a Scottish pub, you put it down, you're like, all right, I'm going to get a pint of this on a table, and I'm not going to talk to anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's because of the way I do things. I mean, it's, the way that it's written in the kind of, a lot of it in the phonetic kind of Scottish. I mean, people assume I just go and record my pub, switch on a tape recorder and go back and transcribe it. It's not like that at all. I mean, it's very much, I tend to write in standard English at the start and write it all down, and then I start to kind of get the voices in my head and start to kind of chip it into a kind of more kind of something that makes sense. It's not really a Scottish thing, because you're not used to seeing words on a page like that, even though it's influenced by different kind of Scottish dialects. But it's trying to get something that has a sense and rhythm to it, because it's all about Scotland's everybody's a storyteller in Scotland. Most of them are not writers. It's a very oral tradition. It's all Celtic kind of oral storyteller tradition. So to try and get the rhythm and timing in the speech is very important. It's a very the speech is very, very performative, because people are used to doing the oral storytelling stuff. I mean, you go into a pub and people don't so much tell the stories, they perform it. There's all the hand gestures and stuff, and and the dramatic pauses and stuff like that, and the rolls, the eyes roll, and it's like kind of so you get that sense that everybody's kind of on stage or on camera, but there's no stage, there's no camera. It's just it's just the way people are, really, and it's to try and get that kind of sense of rhythm and sense of movement and timing and on the page, and it takes a lot of just chipping away meticulously at something.
Wow, that's very cool. Now, of course, I don't get very many opportunities to sit in front of a director and a writer. I write for a very young audience, a very enthusiastic audience of growing young professionals. I wanted to ask, this is something I ask all the time. As a director, Rob, we'll start with you. What would be the one piece of advice that, as a director, as a fellow who has gone through his path to become who you are today, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring director, or for that matter, an aspiring artist in general?
If you want to make a movie, go make a movie. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. I mean, Stanley Kubrick said, if you want to learn how to make movies, make movies. So, in a sense, now with technology, you can get a video camera or you can use your phone, go out and film something and edit it together and tell a story visually. And it's very easy to do with technology these days. It's so accessible. Where in the past it's always been with film, and it's been very expensive. So I would say if you want to be a film director, just go direct.
Cool. And of course, you're a writer, and writing is not something that you can just... Well, you can actually just say, hey, I'm going to write something now. That's how I began myself. But I wanted to know from your perspective, as a person who would be interested in writing, what you would give as a piece of advice.
Well, I think you have to know yourself. I mean, I think if you want to write novels, for example, I mean, a lot of people, I've taught in kind of creative writing courses in America and in the UK, and a lot of people like the idea of being a writer, but they're not really temperamentally suited for it. I mean, I've got a great pal he's hyperactive, he can't sit still for a second, he never listens to a word anybody says about anything, and he wants to be a writer. You're just never going to be a writer, because you can't, it's like, you can't bear to spend a second in your own company. Basically, you've got to be hanging out with people, you've got to be in a bar telling stories, you've got to be talking all the time and not listening to anything. Right, you can be Gabby as a writer, but you've got to be able to switch off and listen as well, and you've got to be able to stand your own company and be able to sit in the room with yourself and people that don't exist for a long, long period of time, a lot of people think they can do that, they can't, they just go insane. You've got to actually like doing it, you know, like getting away from the rest of the world, being a bit of a sad bastard in a way, you know, just sitting there and knocking this stuff out and be happy as a flying ship with it, like, you know. And I think, you know, it's like the reason that I work in film and TV as well as doing novels is because I would probably go insane if I was doing novels all the time. You know? I have to get out and I have to collaborate as well as just sit and do stuff on my own.
Right.
I need both these things happening in my life. So I think you've got to, if you're writing novels, you have to be very, very sort of kind of sure that it's temperamentally the thing you want to do.
Cool.
And I think it's also, it's like, it's not, I mean, I think talent's only kind of 10% of it, 90% that motivation, persistence, you know. And some people are very motivated and persistent in certain things in life, and not so much others. And if you're going to do it, you're going to cause yourself a lot of pain and heartache, and waste a lot of time. If you're not sure this is exactly what you want to do, if you're not sure that you're comfortable doing it, you know. I mean, I'm very comfortable writing, I'm very comfortable being alone and sitting at a computer for days, weeks, months, even then.
Right.
Some people wouldn't be, basically.
Wow. I've got a chance to learn a lot from you too. I could frankly sit here all day, but I'm getting the Hawkeyes from everyone on that corner there. So I thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. I wish you best of luck with the film, and thank you so much for coming back to Toronto.
Thank you.
Thank you.